session, People versus Robert Durst. Mr. Durst is present, and he has been present. I'm not sure if I mentioned that this morning. And counsel for Mr. Durst are present, and counsel for the people are here as well. All our jurors and alternates are present. Witness, Ms. Shaw Cutter has resumed the witness stand. I'll remind you that you're under oath. You may continue with your examination, Mr. Bailey.
Thank you, Your Honor. So, Ms. Cutter, I had marked people's 12 and people's 12A. We play right now, and I just want to know if you recognize the voice.
Okay. That's my husband.
Did he, in your presence, leave a voice message for Susan Berman?
Yes.
So, to the extent that voice message was actually found on her answering machine after she was murdered, that's something that he in fact had left that you heard?
Yes.
Hadn't been deleted?
Yes.
Okay. Had or had?
To my knowledge, I haven't deleted it.
Okay.
Left the message.
Had you ever seen Susan Berman's dogs loose before that day?
Never.
Had you ever seen Susan Berman walking her dog?
No.
Thank you. I've nothing further.
Cross-examination. Mr. Lewis.
Thank you, Your Honor. Good morning, ma'am.
Hi.
Do you prefer Mrs. Cutter or Mrs. Shaw Cutter?
Ms. Cutter is fine.
I want to follow up on a couple things Mr. Bailey had asked you about. I don't think this will be very painful, so give it just a few questions here. You mentioned when Miss Berman would come to your door sometimes. She seemed very chatty.
Yes.
Fair to say she was a rather intense person?
Yes, I would say that's a fair statement.
Now, other than these chats that you would have at your front door, you didn't have much other interaction?
No.
I want to talk about the area that you and your husband live in there, Benedict Canyon.
Okay.
You have described for the ladies and gentlemen of the jury a bit of the traffic flow.
Yes.
And if I recall, you were, in fairness to you, you were questioned about this case back in 2000.
Yeah.
And then again, you were asked more very similar questions, I'm sure, more recently, 2015.
Yeah.
And then in preparation for trial, obviously.
Yes.
I want to ask you, I'm orienting you back to when you had previously spoken with law enforcement.
Okay.
In fairness to you, it's been a tough. Is it fair to say, relative to the thoroughfare that is Benedict Canyon, that it's not really, as we would say, a walking street?
No.
That's accurate?
That is quite accurate.
It's very rare that you will see someone walking on Benedict Canyon.
Reasonably rare, yes.
Now, the day that you take in Lulu, and we've heard testimony regarding your husband it was a joint effort trying to get Lulu back to Miss Berman.
Yes.
Your husband at one point in time goes over to the Berman residence and knocks on the door.
Yes.
And consistent with what you could see from your, I think as you described, your kind of elevated sitting area, the back door was open.
Yes.
Remained that way, to your knowledge, until the police arrived and if anybody shut the door.
Yes.
You've also described to the ladies and gentlemen the proximity of your backyard. It was very easy for you to hear conversations, Ms. Berman lovingly scolding her dogs, etc.
Yes.
turning you back, before the dog was brought to you and your husband so kindly took care of the dog, did you hear anything at all coming from the Berman house that would have sounded like a struggle?
No,
Nothing that sounded anything like a gunshot?
no, not a thing.
No sounds we would associate with breaking in, etc.?
No.
Going back to nearer December 24th of 2000, after you called 911, eventually some officers showed up,
Yes,
and then a whole bunch of officers showed up.
yes,
At some point in time when there are more officers, you're approached, you and your husband, and you're asked relevant questions about your observation.
yes.
And I want to ask you about just a couple of those questions.
Okay.
And if I understand your relationship with this case, you're asked some questions very near your 911 call, and then a day or a few days later, some detectives or law enforcement come ask you more questions.
Yeah, they came a few times.
And one of those follow-up occasions, the detectives ask you about a person named Dee Basket, correct?
Yes.
You know who Dee Basket is?
I met Dee back in those days, yes. And I can't remember exactly why, but I did chat with her.
And if I recall correctly, you, I believe your description was a total weirdo.
Well, no, I wouldn't say weirdo, but she was a very domineering person. Like, she was a tough customer.
Fair enough. Back in this same time frame, do you recall a knock on you and your husband's door and a gentleman coming to ask about Susan?
Yes.
You learned that person was who?
Niall, I don't remember his last name. Niall came knocking on our door on Christmas, the next day. He came over and wondered if we had any idea what had happened over there, because there was police tape on the door and fingerprint dust all over the place, and he hadn't heard from her and they had plans, so he came to my door.
So you had, without going into the contents of your conversation, you had a conversation with him.
Well, yeah, and at that point, I knew that Susan had died, but the police had not told me at all in what manner, so.
So you didn't know that she was murdered at
No.
that point?
No.
In your conversation with Mr. Brenner, did he ask you several questions?
Well, he just asked, what had happened and if we knew where Susan was. And I told him that she unfortunately had died, and he was, quite stricken, and I was in front of my Christmas guests, so it was a really tough moment for him and for me too. But again, I had no idea at that point what had happened.
And Mr. Brenner, in his questions to you after you told him this, he asked you what did the police have to say?
Well, he just said what happened, like what had happened to her. And I really didn't have a lot to tell him except that she had died.
When these detectives followed up or came out to see you, they asked you questions about both Dee Baskin and Niall Brenner?
Yes.
In your conversation with Niall Brenner, did he ever inform you that he had actually broken into Susan's house?
No.
Thank you very much, ma'am. Nothing further, Your Honor.
Can you, did you say that you were the one, you informed Niall that Susan had been killed?
That she had died. I didn't say
died.
that she'd been killed because I didn't know that.
Can you just try to elaborate to the best you can for the jury, Niall's demeanor when you told him that?
He was stricken. I mean, he had to sit down. He was really just in shock. Like, he had to sit for 10 or 15 minutes and just, he asked me what happened, and I told him I didn't really know how. He just was astonished.
Thank you.
Anything else?
No, Your Honor, thank you.
May this witness be excused?
Yes, Your Honor.
Agreed?
Yes, thank you.
You're excused, ma'am. Thank you.
Thank you.
people may call their next witness.
Thank you. People will call Ann Andersen. She may go by Ann Andersen Doyle. You can ask her.
Please come stand in the witness stand. Please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly state that the testimony you're about to give and the counsel pending before this court shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Please be seated. Please state and spell your first and last name.
My name is Anne, A-N-N-E, Andersen, A-N-D-E-R-S-E-N, Doyle, D-O-Y-L-E.
Thank you.
You may proceed.
Thank you. What do you prefer to go by? Is it Miss Andersen, Miss Andersen Doyle, Miss Doyle?
Anna is fine.
Anna.
Yeah.
Usually formal in court, but if it's a
Okay,
court,
well,
I'll tell you Anna.
Well, we could be formal, we could say Andersen Doyle then if you like.
Okay. Where do you currently live?
In Australia. Yeah,
Sure,
I live in on North Stradbroke Island, which is an island outside of Brisbane.
Did you, were you eager to come out here on a plane?
Well, I live in paradise, so there's nothing better than that. But considering the importance of the matter, I thought I owed it to Kathie. And then I was worried about the coronavirus, but then I changed my mind and I thought, well, I will go anyway.
Thank you. Do you work currently?
I don't work right now. I'm retired, but I work as a volunteer teaching, because where I live on the island there's a lot of Indigenous children and the reading levels are really low, so I teach reading to Indigenous kids.
How long have you been doing that?
For 3 years since I lived on the island. It's volunteer, so I'm not getting paid for it or anything, but it's for the community.
I apologize for my ignorance, but I'm asking questions. It's probably going to sound like a silly question. When you say I live on the island, are we talking about Australia or do you live on a separate island?
No, I live on a separate island. I don't consider Australia an island. I consider it a continent.
I don't know. How many was it big? If you Australia, you called it an island?
No, it's I live on actually one of the world's largest sand islands, which has fresh water in it, so it's a quite amazing place.
Oh, sounds wonderful.
Yeah.
Your prediction on your question was proved correct.
I'm going to take you back to the 80s, the early 1980s. Do you remember your life back at that time?
I do, yeah.
What were you doing back then?
I was modeling.
And for how long had you been a model?
I think I started after I finished school, so 1974, 75, and then I came to the States in 1976, late 76, early 77, and yeah, so I've been there since 97, modeling in America since 1977.
Okay. And where were you living in 1981?
37 Riverside Drive, on the corner of 76 and Riverside.
What city is that in?
New York City, yeah.
And how long had you been living there in 1981 approximately?
Well, we bought the place and it was just sort of I wouldn't say a dump, which is not a very nice word, but it wasn't a very nice place, and my husband spent about a year doing it up. So, yeah, we had probably been living there for a year when, how can't remember when we bought it actually, but it would have been maybe 1980, 79, 80 or something like that, yeah.
And at that address, 37 Riverside Drive, can you just very briefly describe for the jury what's at that address? What is it like?
Okay, well, this, you have to remember, this is not in the late 70s, early 80s, so the real estate wasn't anything what it is now. So it was a very, I think we paid $30,000 for this, the apartment on the 17th floor, and it was half, we shared it with another apartment. And ours was smaller, and my husband always said, oh gosh, I wish we could have gotten that one as well, but we couldn't. And but we still had a lovely view up to the George Washington Bridge, that you could see the entire bridge over to New Jersey. And you could see the river, the Hudson River. And then of course, you could see across to the Central Park, and then when my husband finally finished building, he made this really minimalist, super modern kind of place that had glass all over it, so you could sit in the bath and look straight down to the Twin Towers when they still were there. So yeah, it was a beautiful apartment.
Now you kind of, I don't know, make it seem kind of like it wasn't that expensive, but at the time, was that a lot of money?
Well, yeah, I was making good money because I was, I was making a lot of money. So yeah, but if you, I'm just trying to say that in comparison, it wasn't like a $50 billion apartment. We were just starting out, and just because my husband's very good with renovations, which is an Australian
Got it.
custom.
And you described it as a apartment. It's on the top floor?
Yeah,
And there was 2 on the top floor?
2 on the top floor.
Have you previously described it as a penthouse?
Yeah, that sounds, yeah.
In the building of 37 Riverside Drive, how many penthouses are there?
2,
And what floor are those on?
16 or 17, it was the top floor, so I can't remember if it was, how you count them.
I have a photograph of my Marcus as People's 13, Your Honor.
Yes.
You see it on the screen there. Do you recognize that building?
Oh yeah, it's taken from Riverside Drive down the corner. Yeah, I do, yeah.
Okay. And is that 37 Riverside Drive?
Yeah.
And so that top floor, would that be your apartment? I mean, would that
On
be
the
where
top,
live?
you can't see it in the picture because it was, so it had, on the top it had a very wide terrace, and the houses were the apartments were in the middle. So that ledge that you see, that was part of the terrace.
Okay. So it was at the very, very top.
At the very, very top, yeah.
I have a photograph of my Marcus as People's 14.
Yes.
Yeah.
Do you recognize that?
God.
It's a little blurry.
It's a little blurry, yeah.
Do you recognize it?
Yeah, I do, definitely, yeah.
What is that?
Well, it's 37 Riverside Drive. It's my old apartment.
Is that the entrance?
Yeah.
What street is that entrance on? What
That's
street?
76th Street on the corner of 76 and Riverside Drive.
Can you describe a little better for the jury these 2 apartments on the top floor, how they were situated in relation to each other?
Okay, well, so you come up the elevator, and as you face out on the right, on the right-hand side was my apartment, on the left-hand side was the other apartment. So my apartment was the one that wasn't on the river and that didn't get the sunsets. So, but it was still quite nice. And it was very small because originally it only had like 1 bedroom and a small bathroom and a small kitchen, but my husband made it so it kind of looked a bit sunken, so he made it so it had glass doors all the way around so that you could see all the view. And then at the, say there was like a U like this, and they lived on the front, and they're one of the U's that went down like this. That was all the beautiful river view.
Let me stop you.
With some,
Sorry.
yeah, so with this, yeah, sorry.
I'm sorry. Go finish your.
And there was this big terrace that went around, and he made a bedroom at the end of the terrace on the other side. So to increase the size of the apartment, we had a sort of an extra bedroom that was just all glass almost. And you could lie in bed and watch the lights of Manhattan, basically.
Was that the bedroom that you slept in?
Yeah, no, we only had one bedroom, yeah.
Okay. So if I understand what you're telling us correctly, if you were going to enter from inside the building and come up the elevator, you would exit the elevator and you would have your front door to Riverside Drive apartment. Is that right?
Yeah,
And on the other side of the hallway would be the door to your neighbor.
yes.
And so if a neighbor wanted to come visit you, they could come out their front door, knock on your front door.
Absolutely, yes.
Okay. And alternatively, your bedroom had a bunch of glass windows on the back,
Yeah,
and they faced out onto kind of a, you call it a terrace area?
yeah.
Could you get from the terrace outside of your bedroom to the other neighbor's apartment on that floor?
Yes.
Would you have to navigate any type of obstacles to go from your...
But there was obviously a barrier, but I never went over to the other apartment. I can't actually remember that right now, how that was to do that, because I never went over there. I mean, it's not something that you do, kind of thing.
Okay, so it wasn't like a natural path to go from apartment to apartment?
No, it wasn't.
Will you please wait for the question to be completed before we give your answer?
Sorry, yeah.
She's typing everything we say.
Oh,
It's okay. There was no natural path to get from your apartment to the other apartment across the terrace?
no,
That's correct. I made a correct statement?
yes.
Okay. And you say there was some kind of a barrier. Are you referring to some type of a wall of some sort?
I can't remember exactly what it was, but there was a separation between the two apartments, obviously, because otherwise you wouldn't have the privacy. I can't exactly say what that separation looked like now, because it's been 38 years since I was there, but it was the kind of thing that I would never go over to their place to have a look at the sunset if they weren't home.
Okay. There was some type of physical barrier that you would have to cross in order to go over there.
Absolutely.
And vice versa, there's some sort of physical barrier up there on the roof that your neighbor would have to cross to get over to outside of your bedroom.
Yes.
And in case I didn't ask you, who did you live in the apartment with at that time?
My husband, Kevin Doyle.
Are you still married?
Yeah.
Does he live in Australia too?
Yes.
On the island. The small island, not the big island. If I tell you the name Robert and Kathie Durst, would you recognize those names?
Yes.
How would you recognize them?
How I would do it. They were my neighbors.
Okay. And I'm going to photograph people's 15, Your Honor.
Yes.
Do you recognize the people depicted in that photograph?
I do.
Who are those people?
It's Kathleen and Robert and Bob.
Okay. It's been many years. Do you think you'd recognize them today or not really? Or you better recognize them in a photograph?
It's been 38 years. I don't think I could recognize.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
Well, I'm sure I would recognize her smile. She was a beautiful woman.
Let's talk about Robert Durst first. What type of, before I ask you, how long were you living there approximately while they were living there?
I don't know. I couldn't say that because I don't remember if they were there before we came there or after, and also I didn't have any interaction with Robert.
Let me ask you this. Would you say you lived there next door to them for a matter of days, weeks, months, or a year or more?
Oh no, a year or more. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And did you have occasion, although you didn't really converse with him, did you have occasion to come across Robert Durst while he was living there?
Yeah, like you do with neighbors, I suppose, yeah.
To the best that you can tell from your interactions with him, tell the jury what he was like to you.
Well, he was not very talkative and kind of not approachable, but it was New York, so people don't really, talk to each other a lot. And yeah, he wasn't like a very neighborly person. But yeah, I had my life and they had their life, and there was no much social action going on.
Did you know anything about what wealth he did or did not have?
I didn't know him from Adam, no, I had no idea. I thought they were starting out the same way as we were.
Did you know when you lived there who his family was or what type of business they had in New York?
No.
Would you say you had more interactions with Robert Durst or Kathie Durst?
Kathie.
Okay. And without telling us specifically about those interactions just yet, tell the jury a little bit, what was Kathie like?
Well, I wish I had met her under nicer circumstances. She was a beautiful woman, and we were kind of contemporary. She was a bit older than I was, but we were both married, and she was becoming a doctor, and I always thought that was amazing because I always wanted to study medicine, but then I did modeling, and then so. Yeah, she was a beautiful woman.
What was her personality like?
Well, like I only knew her in very stressed and upset circumstances. So if I had known her socially from when she was happy, I would have been able to answer your question. But
are you trying to say that the interactions you had with Kathie really only saw one side of her because you only saw her on one particular type of interaction?
absolutely, yeah.
Without going into what those interactions were, are we talking about one occasion or are we talking about many occasions where you had these types of interactions with her?
Multiple occasions, yeah.
Okay. Why don't you tell us, under what circumstances would you have interactions with Kathie Durst?
Well, she would run across from her terrace into my terrace and try to get away. She would say that she wanted to get away and to have somebody to talk to, or just it was like she was wanting to get away, and the one really bad time she'd come over late at night, and she was...
We're going to talk about that in a moment. I just want to know, in general, these times where she would come over to your place across the terrace, and you describe them as times where she just really wanted to get away. Did you have conversations with her?
Yeah, I did, yeah.
These times where she would come over, where eventually she would talk about wanting to get away, can you describe for the jury, the best you can, putting it into words, because they weren't there, you were. What was Kathie Durst's demeanor when she would come over across the terrace to your apartment, trying to get away?
Oh, she would be upset, and she would be, and I would say that she would be emotionally rattled, and she would be unsure of herself and feel undermined or attacked or not sure of herself in what she was doing. And what she was doing was very hard as well. I mean, she was last year of medical school, it wasn't easy.
So, was it always the same level of distress when she would come over to you, or were there different levels of distress?
Oh no, there were definitely different levels of distress, yes.
So I wanted you to discuss for the jury, what was Kathie's demeanor like? The times where she would come over when she was at her high level of distress. What was her demeanor like? Physically, what did she look like?
Oh, when she was in those acute stress modes, she would be, she would come over in her, in her pajamas or in her whatever loungewear or underwear, whatever you call it. And she would be disheveled. It would be a little bit like a stray dog that would come out of the rain, and she would just want to get away. And I would say it would have been hugely embarrassing for her, but she probably felt that she had to, she felt that she could trust me, and that I would let her in, and we'd talk to each other and stuff.
In describing her physical appearance when she came over, her physical demeanor, have you previously...
Well, she was very cowering, and she would be... hair would be disheveled, she'd be crying, she'd be shaking, she'd be a complete mess, basically, and, yeah.
When you used the word cowering just now in the jury, you kind of took your shoulders and rolled them in and brought your arms close to your chest, as if hunched over. Describe what you're trying to describe. How would she physically look? Would she actually be doing that, being hunched over like that?
Yeah, because that's like when you're afraid or when you're being, attacked kind of thing, you cower, you hold yourself like this. I mean, it's a natural reaction that humans do.
And, Your Honor, when she said that, she had both of her arms crossed across her chest, holding her shoulders as if kind of grasping herself or hugging herself as hunched over with her shoulders.
The record shows, so reflect.
Thank you. Aside from being kind of cowered over and hunched over in that manner you described, you also said the word shaking. Would she physically be shaking?
Yeah, absolutely. Physically shaking and scared. Frightened, really terrorized. So.
Would she be crying?
Crying.
How bad?
How bad?
Would she be crying?
Well, usually she'd cry and sob more after she would come inside and calm down. She would really sob and cry. But I guess, yeah.
On these instances she came over in this fashion where she was shaking, she was cowering, she was hunched over. I take it then you would allow her into your house, talk to her?
Yeah.
And this was on more than one occasion?
Yeah.
And was she just relating things that happened months ago, or is she talking about things that had just happened in those 6 situations?
No, it was all that, it was what was happening then, because otherwise she wouldn't have come into my house. It wasn't, we weren't friends from before or anything like that. She would only come into my house when she needed when she needed shelter, basically.
Okay. And how many times would you estimate it was that she came to you, shaking, cowering, seeking shelter from something or someone?
Oh, I couldn't say, but it would be numerous times,
Okay.
depending on the severity of, she would come in sometimes not completely terrorized, but, yeah.
As you sit here today, thinking back, it's been a long time, 38 years. Do you have a clear memory of some times where she would come over and she would be completely terrorized?
Absolutely, yeah. I even remember her pajamas, what she was wearing.
Okay. Did she ever come over and visit you through your front door?
Not that I remember now.
So are you saying every time Kathie would come over and interact with you, it would always be across this terrace, across
Yeah.
whatever barrier there was, to your back door, or window, whatever it was?
Yeah.
In your bedroom, there's a lot of windows?
Well, my bed faced towards the George Washington Bridge, and the window was a sliding door, so the glass went from top to bottom. So the window was a door and the door was a window. So, and it was, the bedroom was elevated,
Yeah.
so that there were 2 or 3 steps going down onto
Yeah.
the terrace.
Okay. Did you, have you previously described Kathie as when she's come over to you as being hysterical?
Yeah, I'd say so, yeah.
Is that a fair
Yeah.
assessment? On these times where Kathie would come over manifesting the physical symptoms, or not symptoms, but physical things that you described, and you let her in your home, did you then have discussions with her when she was in this state?
Well, what I used to do with my husband was just try to calm her down, because she would be so, and, you know, try to get her to talk. And
Would she talk sometimes and tell you what had just happened?
yeah, of course she would, yeah.
So I want you to tell the jury, what would she tell you? What was she escaping from?
Well, she was escaping from a very emotionally abusive relationship, and she was, when she was afraid, she would come over to my house, and sometimes she wouldn't even sit where any. I had one room in the house, which was the bathroom, which only had a window seeing downtown, but it didn't have a terrace around it. So you could go into the bathroom and close the door and nobody could see you from the outside of the terrace. So she would want to sit in that room because she didn't want anybody to come on the terrace and see that she was in there with me.
Well, when you say she didn't want anyone to see, did she tell you who she didn't want you to see?
Well, her husband, yeah.
Are we talking about Robert Durst?
Yes.
Was she relating to you in this scared, hysterical, shaking, cowering, crying state, things that her husband, Robert Durst, had just done to her or said to her?
Absolutely.
Let's first talk about the things he had said to her. We won't talk about physical violence right now, okay? What types of what you've described as emotional abuse would she tell you that her husband had just said or done to her prior to running over to you to seek shelter?
Well, he would call her words and names and demean her and, you know, not support her. And
What words did he call her that you remember?
well, he would just call her like, you know, like skank, and that she wasn't good enough, and she was a nobody, and who did she think she was? And I kept saying, my God, you know, you're a dog, you know, yeah, so it was that sort of belittling and demeaning. I can't exactly remember so much the words, but
You used the word skank. Did Kathie...
well, skank is, yeah, but that was kind of like it's somebody who was a loose woman sort of thing, and that you couldn't trust, and all the kind of vocabulary that is used to put somebody down.
Did she tell you that he called her stupid and an idiot?
Absolutely stupid and idiot, that she wouldn't, there was no point in doing medicine, and like all these kind of things. I mean, it really a general sense of assassination, character assassination, or confidence.
Did she talk to you? You mentioned medicine. Did she talk to you about what he was telling her about her desire to be a doctor?
No, we didn't really have, it wasn't so much talk about the circumstances in their life. It was more, every time I spoke to her, it was more an emergency situation. So I can't say I knew anything about her or them or anything. I didn't know who he was. I knew that they had a house upstate New York, but that's all I knew.
Okay. So we've talked about this demeaning words that he used against his wife. And this what you described as verbal abuse that he's used against his wife. I want to talk to you. Were there times when she came to you shaking, cowering, where she was seeking shelter for more than just verbal abuse?
Yeah, I think that he would beat her up and
Objection on speculative.
All right, sustained.
Did she ever tell you that he'd just been physically violent with her?
yeah, she would tell me, because otherwise she wouldn't be coming to me, because she came to me because she was afraid.
Okay. Did she ever tell you that he'd ever threatened her?
I remember she was saying, this is when she was really upset that time, and they had a massive fight because he wanted her to sign some papers saying that she wouldn't get any money or any property or something like that. And I thought that that was another way of frightening. That's another, if you leave me, you're just going to have nothing. You'll be nobody. You're not going to have anything. So.
And she told you he wanted her to sign something?
He wanted her to sign something, and she wouldn't do it. Yeah.
And what type of thing did he want her to sign?
Well, like some kind of paper saying that she didn't claim any monies for, so after they got off, if she left him, basically.
Okay. And how many times is it? Was it multiple times or one time? To the best of your memory, that she told you about this physical violence she just suffered?
To my memory, I can only say that I actually only remember this one time when it was really, really bad. Because that's the time that really sticks out in my mind. And otherwise, I can't actually pinpoint amount of times that she did come in, but it was more or less in a disheveled state. But this one time was really, really bad. And then
we'll discuss that in a minute. I have a audio memo that says people 16 and the transcript is people 16A.
Yes.
But before you put, were you interviewed by Sir Lou and myself and detectives in 2015?
I was.
Okay. And had you already seen all good things as of the time of that interview?
No.
Had you watched the Jinx at the time of that interview?
No.
Okay, quickly.
I object. This will be your
It's going to be a prior inconsistent statement portion.
I have not heard the foundation of anything being inconsistent.
Just a moment. Oh,
You have a moment?
yes.
Sorry.
If I were to ask you, and if I were to say, hey, listen, on a scale of 0 to 100, with 0 being, you know what, I'm not sure at all, and 100 being I'm positive, how sure are you that Kathie during some of these interactions told you that Bob had been violent?
I'm 100% sure about that.
Is that what you said?
That's what I said.
And is that truthful?
That's true.
So were there multiple occasions where she told you he had been violent with her?
Multiple occasions, yes.
You just can't say how many.
No.
So when you pause, you're just trying to think of how many occasions, not whether it happened.
No, I know it happened, but I just can't, I can't say, it happened 5 times or 10 times. It was, it was 38 years ago, so I can't remember exactly, how many times, but I know that she was terrified of him, so, and that wasn't just emotional abuse, so.
Did you tell her not to go back? Yeah.
I'm sorry, Mr. Bailey, so we were going to break early to take up another matter. So I think this might be a logical break.
Yes. Thank you.
So, ladies and gentlemen, I really am going to give you today you'll really get the first shot at the specials at the cafeteria. I was off on time before, but now I'm confident you'll be first in line ahead of all those other jurors and all those other trials. So, I'm going to remind you to be mindful of this admonition. Do not converse among yourselves or with anyone else on any subject connected with this case. Do not form or express any opinion